Welcome back to Askewed Reviews. And since this week we have the new John Wick spin off coming out, The Ballerina, I've decided to go through all of the John Wick films and do trivia reviews for each one of them. So today it's the 2014 film John Wick. Here is your trivia question for today. What are the words tattooed on John Wick's back? The answer will be at the end of this episode. So, in the film John Wick, we meet our main character of Morty Finkelstein. I'm just kidding. Of course, our main character of John Wick. Now, John has been having a really rough time as his wife recently passed away due to cancer. Now, it does appear that one of her dying wishes was to give John a puppy so he had someone to care about. The dog does seem to help fill that empty hole because he doesn't really need much else. He has a very palatial home and a really nice car. One day, while John is out driving, a very arrogant Russian man attempts to purchase his car. John says no, and the man seems to be pretty insistent, but is willing to leave it at that for now. However, that night when John tries to go to sleep, some people break into his home and steal his car. They also manage to make three huge mistakes. Number one, having zero morality and only cruelty, they dispatch his new furry friend. Number two, their leader, Yosef, reveals his face. And number three, they leave him alive. Yosef attempts to sell the car, but no one will take it when they find out who it belonged to. And it's only once he meets up with his father, Vigo, who is a crime lord, that he discovers just how bad it is that he left John Wick alive. It is explained to him that John Wick was once known as the Boogeyman or Baba Yaga when it came to assassins, and now that someone has angered him, he's no longer in retirement and is only out for revenge. You may or may not know this, but the original title for this film was not John Wick, but was in fact Scorn. Chad Stahelski was the director for this film, but did you happen to know that he was also Keanu's stunt double for the Matrix movies? Keanu Reeves had weapons and martial arts training for 4 months leading up to this film. He also did 90% of his own stunts in this movie. Reeves even learned and memorized the nightclub fight sequence in the same day that it was filmed, and at that time was dealing with the flu and a 104-degree fever. Throughout the film, John Wick primarily uses judo and Japanese jujutsu. And if you didn't know, Miss Perkins primarily uses Brazilian jiu jitsu. Also, in the original script, the character was actually Mr. Perkins, but Adrian Pilecki impressed them so much that they changed the character to a female. Writer Derek Kolstad named the character John Wick after his grandfather. Also, the character was written as a man in his mid 60s with Paul Newman as an inspiration. Apparently, the only real issue of having Keanu Reeves actually take on the role is there was quite a bit of argument over whether or not he could keep the beard. Now, throughout the films, we do discover that John Wick's real name is Jardani Jovanovic. In Serbian Hebrew, Jovan is a form of John, so Jovanovic actually means son of John. Also, Jardani means of the garden. John Wick has the nickname of Baba Yaga. This is actually Slavic lore about a witch that lives in a house that walks around on chicken legs. She is portrayed as being very scary, but also a trickster, and she does tend to help those out that are pure of heart. The red circle bar is a reference to another movie that's actually an influence for this one, and that's the 1970 film Le Cercle Rouge. The security guard that waves John onto the runway is reading the book Shibumi. This is about a retired assassin. And in the book, they mention a person using a pencil to take out three people. This is, of course, referenced in the movie as something that John Wick can apparently do. This is the fourth film where Keanu Reeves plays someone with the name John or Johnny, those other three movies being Point Break, Johnny Mnemonic, and Constantine. At this point, I definitely can't see anyone else playing John Wick other than Keanu Reeves, but apparently they originally offered the role to Johnny Depp, but he turned it down. Here are some other actors that were also up for the role of John Wick: Sylvester Stallone, Dolph Lundgren, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Bruce Willis, Kurt Russell, Nicolas Cage, Kevin Costner, and Jason Statham. Ian McShane playing Winston is another case of a character I can't imagine any other actor playing, but they did originally offer the role to Jason Isaacs. And there were other actors up for the role even, including Al Pacino, Michael Douglas, Bruce Dern, Robert De Niro, Christopher Walken, Rutger Hauer, Liam Neeson, and Christoph Waltz. Lance Reddick plays the character of Chiron, but his name is not actually said until the third movie. But did you know that his name is connected to Greek mythology? This is also the name of the ferryman to Hades, who is also paid with coins to be able to cross the river Styx into the underworld. It was Reddick's idea to use a Kenyan accent for his character. To work on his Russian accent, Alfie Allen, who plays Yusuf, actually visited Russian public bathhouses in New York City. Here are some other actors throughout the film that you probably recognize: Michael Nyqvist as Vigo, Willem Dafoe as Marcus, John Leguizamo as Aurelio, and Dean Winters as Avi. Retired wrestler Kevin Nash has a brief cameo in this film as the character of Francis. And in an interview, Nash has stated that the reason why John Wick doesn't take him out is when John says that he has lost some weight and his response is that he's lost 60 pounds. This is a code notifying John that there are about 60 hostiles inside. The building facade used for the Continental has been used in multiple films, one of which is as the stock exchange in the movie The Dark Knight Rises. When Grigori and Yosef are in the safe house, Grigori is playing the video game Dust 514. Also, if you look really carefully as he's playing the game, there is a reference to the Matrix. The character's username in the upper right-hand corner, which obviously you can't see very well in this picture, is Neo. And speaking of video games, John Wick is a playable character in Payday 2. John Wick's body count for this film is 77. This movie was entirely filmed in New York. The original plan was to just do a trilogy, but they of course did a fourth film, there's also a fifth one on the way, and there's the Ballerina spin-off which comes out this week. It also doesn't stop there, as there is a prequel television series called The Continental, which is a three-part miniseries that is all about a young Winston, and a recently announced television series called John Wick Under the High Table, which takes place after the events of the fourth film, with new characters trying to take down the High Table. So when it comes to the film John Wick, I think this movie has some really great action sequences, and I'm so happy that it brought Keanu Reeves back into the limelight. But I also do feel like this movie is very overrated. And that's primarily due to the fact that there's no plot. I mean, if you really look at it, the only purpose of this movie is for John Wick just to get revenge on what happened to his dog. And that's very similar to the same plot as the original Doom video game, which, let's be honest, is fun, but not a great story. So for me on my scale, I'm giving this film a 3 out of 5. And if you did enjoy this film, other movies I recommend checking out are The Transporter, Nobody, Sin City, and Guns Akimbo. Now it's time to answer the trivia question from the beginning of this episode. What are the words tattooed on John Wick's back? He has the Latin words Fortis Fortuna Aduvat, which means fortune favors the strong, or also taken sometimes as fortune favors the bold. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Askewed Reviews. And keep an eye out, as throughout the rest of this week, I'm going to be doing the trivia reviews for the rest of the John Wick series.